So I guess I'll start it off, just give you a quick little introduction, an overview map here, and then I'll pass it off to Matt and John to talk about this project in a little more detail. It's come together over, what, 20, you've been working on your
Probably
land for
a little more
than 20 years. But essentially what we've got here is multiple landowners working towards the same objective, and we kind of joined forces over the years, and it's worked out really well. We've got a thriving quail population here now, and I've got a graph showing that. We still need that laser map.
Yeah.
But so to the north there is our Nanticoke River Wildlife Management Area, which is about a 1,600 acre property. We're managing about 350 acres of that for early successional habitat. Quite a bit of it is marshland or older forest that we haven't managed. We've got multiple objectives there. To the south, across Quantico Creek, to the south, John Long, Tom Fisher. There's some other landowners as well that aren't on this map, kind of thrown together at the last minute. But there's a conglomeration of landowners that are all focused on particularly quail, and we understand that a lot of other species are going to benefit as well. And then in the middle of that is a Chesapeake Forest land property, which if you know anything about Chesapeake Forest, this is land that's managed by the Maryland Forest Service. So I've got Matt here, and they've been a great partner on a lot of habitat work over the years. But this parcel was kind of sitting there as a it was a loblolly pine plantation. I'll let Matt talk about what they did with that. But it's all working out really well together. And I'll just quickly mention Nanticoke River, WMA. You can kind of see the breakdown of what we think of as our primary quail habitat there. We started this in about 2008, 2009 with, there was a shift in staff there, and some, we were able to reprioritize what we're doing on this land. It was all leased out to a farmer, kind of just managed similarly to a lot of the surrounding farmland. Decided to do something really cool and exciting on it, and we took out 175 acres of land to put into early successional habitat. Did native grass plantings, all the typical stuff, native grass plantings, fallow land, hedgerow plantings, shrub clumps. Then so that was 2008, 2009. About 8 years later, we finally got approval to do a 60-acre thinning in the back there, which has turned out really phenomenal, provided some great habitat. And that's really when we saw our quail population explode even more. So it's a lot of work, and the guys that manage this, Greg Skank and his crew there, do a wonderful job maintaining this habitat. Just some pictures, an example. That's more of the grassland stuff. Is the thing, and really excited about this. We've just completed our breeding quail surveys, which is down here on the right. And you can see we did have some quail. We actually didn't do surveys for quite a while because the left graph is the fall surveys, and we had basically no quail for about a 5-year period. There was a small remnant population. They went to zero. We said, we got to do something, So then 2008, 2009 is when we started to manage heavily. You can see that population started to creep up. But we have our record high counts for the spring and fall just occurring in this last year. So really exciting to see that many birds. You're seeing them on a regular basis while we're out there doing habitat management. So super great success story there. And I'll pass it over to Matt.
All right, so you saw what was happening on the north side of the creek, and on the south side of the creek, John and Tom and his neighbors, they've been doing their management, and we'll talk about that. But you basically had this 100 acres in the middle that was just being a normal old pine stand that was in middle rotation and was basically other than roost habitat, was basically for wildlife not doing anything. And so we have we have almost 95,000 acres we manage on the shore, and we're constantly trying to balance out our age curve and our densities and our structure. So this was in an annual work plan to be regularly thinned, and we had these partners all around us that were like really doing awesome active management. We weren't really doing anything, and they came to us and they were like, "Hey, if you're gonna go in there and harvest, is there a reason for it to have to be a regular thinning, down to 70 square feet of basal area?" And that's the one part of our age curve and our density curve where we are flush. We've got plenty of these acres on the landscape. So this was a great opportunity for us to fall in line with some practices that were going on the landscape. And I think Bob's last slide, they were both already successful, but when you start putting puzzle pieces together, that's when you see exponential growth. And I think that's what it is just like, we didn't do anything different. We didn't come in and save the day or anything like that. All we did was be a partner and amplify what they were already doing. And as a result, we were doing a thing for this campaign part of Delmarva Woodland Stewards. We were doing a Faces of Forestry campaign, and John was one of the featured people. And so we go out there right after the fire, and while we were out there with the film crew taking these pictures, we heard quail. And we were all like, wait, is somebody playing that on their phone? like, is that somebody's ringtone? I mean, it was immediate. Like we were hearing them within the first season. So we wanted, so that's why this is one of the case studies, and this is what we wanted to talk about. So I'm going to talk. So you've heard from the state parts. Now we want to give you the private side of things.
Okay, Bob, you can go ahead and do something.
Did you know I dug that one?
No, I didn't know that.
I just wanted to let you know that our private landowners are great. I mean, they want to hunt quail, but they're not very successful. So there was 4 of us that day. We got 1 bird.
You want to go through
that was a while ago.
You have the other
I do.
picture there.
So there you go.
The side of it that I really want to talk about is you can't do it alone. It takes a partnership. And you've heard good fences make good neighbors. Well, good habitat makes good neighbors with this. I don't care if you had a perfect 50 acres of habitat, it won't work because your birds will migrate off and you don't have enough immigration coming back in. And until we saw that, like on Bob's side of the creek, he had good habitat, I had good habitat, and then we started realizing it still takes additional neighbors. It takes a lot of people, and when you see all the people here today and you hear all the speakers, it takes all this to make it happen. You have to have some good fire service. Chris, to tell you about that. I mean, fire is critical for the habitat that we're trying to have. And you don't just go out and do it yourself. First of all, you don't want to do it if you're very old because your heart won't take it. Something bad's going to happen. But it takes a lot of people, and it takes a big area. And when we saw the picture a minute ago showing Bob's got almost 1,500 acres on one side of the creek. We have about 1,500 acres that we're managing on the other side for quail. So we've got 3,000 acres to start with. And you think, oh boy, that must be enough. I don't think it is. It really takes the whole general area to make it work. So the birds will come and they'll go and they'll continue. Bob and I like to kid each other, whether his birds came to my side of the creek or mine went to his side of the creek. But it takes both sides of it to make it happen. And it takes a big partnership. And we're fortunate now. We have Josh Kurtz as the new Secretary of Department of Natural Resources. And it really helps from the top down. People, we gave a presentation, when was it, to Josh, a month ago? Forest Service.
In April.
And the Maryland Forest Service, Beth Hill's been a big help with that. The Lower Shore Land Trust, I saw Beth Shepard a minute ago. It takes all these people, Daniel Lawson with the federal programs, Bob Long when you have specific questions about what maybe does work and doesn't work. Tom and I are pretty good on what doesn't work. We've tried everything, and really we didn't have any real success until we started being more inclusive in what we have and how we try to make it happen. But anyway, I just want to reiterate that if neighbors will get involved, people love to see birds. You can show them the habitat all day, and they'll take pictures of it, and they'll ask questions about this and that. But if you show them a bird, that's when their cameras come out, their phones come out. Everybody likes to see a bird. Now, once again, it takes a real translocation to make it work long-term and have good, healthy population. But in the interim, if you stock a few birds, people will see a bird and they'll hear a bird. And I noticed this year, I took 2 or 3 birds and put up in an old beagle pen up off the ground, and they attracted the other birds that were in the area. So I've heard and seen birds all summer long, which is due. But sitting out there and hearing them makes it all worthwhile. When you see 2 male birds chasing each other all around, it makes it worthwhile. You'll see them sitting, you'll see them dusting and watching them. So you really have to have some sort of connectivity to it to see some successes. So I don't discourage anybody from taking a few birds, putting them out so you'll have something. And when you see the dogs, people today have dogs rather than children. If we can connect the dog people to the habitat people for quail restoration, we'll have done something. So you can see this one dog, he'll work up here on the right, but she gets a little bit of time, leisure time in the pool. And that same dog that you see here will hunt all day long. So anyway, trying to connect the dots, whether it's the people involved, whether it's the interested, the dog people versus the truly wildlife people, it all works together, but once again, it takes a partnership. And when Matt came in and thinned that 90 or so acres in between Tom Fisher's and mine, it just started to blossom once again. So when you put all those pieces together and you reach out and show people a little bit of success, and Bob's graphics show that it does work, but I think it's only because we have this much bigger group. Once again, I would encourage anyone who has a little bit of their property that they can put into an area so that quail can move from here to here to here. You don't have to have 1,000 acres or a big part that looks like Dan's up there at Chino Farms. It looks absolutely gorgeous. But a little bit here, a little bit there, that's close enough that they can connect. You'll connect the dots and have a pretty good picture when you finish. So any other questions you might have, the 3 of us might be able to answer it.
Yeah, we purposely kept our parts short for our 20 minutes so that we could set the stage and get questions. That's the main takeaway from what John said was, every person in the puzzle, if they take their piece and they keep it manageable, like that's the thing, is scale and keeping it manageable. So if you and your partners are working together and nobody's trying to get too big, too fast, or too this or too that, the main point is keeping a plan and trying to make sure that whatever it is you're doing on your particular puzzle piece is something you can manage in perpetuity. To go back to Bob's first slide about managed early successional habitat. I mean, the goal here on these properties is to keep it in an early successive habitat in perpetuity. So nobody's stopping and giving up. So if it's not manageable and it's not sustainable, you're not going to be able to do it. So do you have anything to add to that? Yeah.
No.
So any questions for any of us?
We got someone on the online chat that asks, can quail be established with fox on the property?
Yes, definitely. It's an easy answer.
Repeat the question.
The question is, can quail be established with fox on the property, or I'm assuming other predators? Yeah, there's some properties that have thriving quail populations with little to no predator control. The predator question is a topic maybe for another talk, and we could go into depth about that. But yes, you can have quail. Can you reach maximum densities without some sort of predator management? That's debatable. But yeah.
My answer to that too is habitat trumps predators. If you're aggressive with your habitat, you can beat them. I will say this, that we had a fellow come up here from Tall Timbers, and they're a great resource too, just like Quail Forever. Brad Muller, I don't know if any of you, Bill, you might have heard the name. He wrote the first book that Tall Timbers put out on quail management. But anyway, I called him one day and I said, look, Brett, if 85% of our birds are taken by predation, why aren't we spending 85% of our resources on predator control? And he said, John, think about it this way. The only reason a quail probably flies is because he has to. Predators teach him to fly. He said, you take out all the predators and you may as well release 2,000 chickens out there and hunt them. So once again, habitat does prevail, I think.
Any other questions?
All the way in the back.
Could somebody speak on Nature Conservancy? Are we seeing any more the rise in quail populations over Nature Conservancy land? Or how's that work everywhere?
Repeat the question.
Yeah, so the question was if there's been a population response on Nature Conservancy property. Yeah, so kind of a separate topic, and I'll actually mention that in my last talk of the day when I talk about success stories. But the short answer is, yeah, there's been some quail showing up on some of those properties, so it's exciting. Yeah.
Can you speak to access to fire crews for controlled burns?
So the question is access to fire crews for controlled burns. And I think Chris hit on that a little bit in that Forest Service, and well, maybe Matt wants to speak to it. He's right here behind.
Yeah, so on the state land stuff, that's been one of our priorities in Chris's talk. And so when the weather's right and their WMA is near, and our Chesapeake Forest Tracks, like we're all pretty close there in the lower 3 counties, and so we can usually work it in. The success of the TNC drone that they've got in the last couple years has really decreased our time on each fire. We're getting them done, and so that's one of the main reasons we've seen between personnel capacity and that drone is one of the reasons we've seen an increase in number of burns we've been able to get done, even though the number of burn days hasn't changed. And so Tom had already been through the landowner workshops and things. I think it's been about 6 or 7 years since we've offered one of those workshops. But yeah, so Tom and John go through the burn permit stuff, and they do their stuff without us. They've been through it, and their blocks are set up, and it's really low risk, permanent fire breaks. Like there's a whole lot of stuff there. So as we build capacity and we get more landowners interested in it, we're basically making a list, and with state resources, we have to prove there's a demand from the public for it before we can reallocate from somewhere else. But we have to walk the knife's edge of not over-promising. And it does cost money. It's relatively cheap when the state does it, but it's not free. It's not something we just come and do. And you have to sign a burn agreement with us and stuff. But is that good enough?
Is there anyone here that can speak to the Delaware side of that?
We're gonna have a panel after lunch, so let's save our questions because we got one more talk when we get to lunch. So we'll save these questions and these other topics for other people. I saw another hand up, so we will get to those shortly.